Coaches, welcome back to another installment of the Minnesota Basketball Coaching Podcast. We will have Ryan James here in a minute, but first, just want to plug my video breakdowns on gumroad.com/Coach Cloutier, gumroad.com/Coach Cloutier. I've done 2 video breakdowns more here coming in the next few weeks. First one was on Augsburg University's transition offense, and the second one was on St. John's University's ball screen offense. Gumroad.com/Coach Cloutier. All right, we are here with Ryan James from, I'll just start listing breakdown from Prep Hoops, 24/7, Gopher Illustrated. Ryan, thanks for joining us today.
It is my pleasure. I'm very excited to be here. There's been a distinguished list of guests that I've seen come through here, and I'm so excited to be a part of it. I know I won't be able to follow in Joe Jancourt's footsteps, but I'll do my best.
You know, Joe was he prepped me that he had a hard time talking about himself because he's a very modest guy. So I don't know. You've been through the ringer with him. I don't know if that's true or not. I'll take it for what he says. But he was a good guest on. And then we had Leah Dasovich, obviously you coached with her husband as well. So a few connections to former guests that we've had on.
Yeah, Tom texted like 4 minutes ago suggesting what I should say. Still trying to tell me what to do.
She was great. She was awesome. She could coach a guys team and have a lot of success. I have no issues saying that. We always start with the Wikipedia page. You know, Damian Johnson's been on. He has a Wikipedia page. I think you're the next one who probably deserves one. So tell us what you're coaching, and then now more recently you're writing, what your Wikipedia page would say.
Oh man, my Wikipedia page would probably. My whole basketball got started because most people are probably familiar with Sam Jacobson. Like growing up, my house is me and my brother and my parents, and we didn't have much for cousins. I have 2 cousins that are way older than us, and then Sam, who's a lonely child. And we followed everything Sam did. So when Sam got good at basketball, we started playing basketball. And when Sam got deep into basketball, me and my brother got deep into basketball. And that's where the start came. You know, and then I started playing, played high school at Austin, and I was a manager at the University of Minnesota. My original goal was to try to be a college basketball coach, but it soured because of the academic scandal. There was, a few things that it wasn't, I had some connections, and those connections would definitely help me out, but it was more my general handling of it myself. I saw, when I switched from Coach Haskins, who I love dearly and has done more for me in my life than anybody but my parents, and my aunt and my grandmother, outside of my family, Coach Haskins has done more for me than anybody in the world. So when he left, and Dan Munson came, Dan Munson's fine, but it was so different. And there was some things I didn't like that happened in terms of how they treated some people. It soured my basketball taste. So I left basketball. I didn't even pay attention to basketball of any kind for 2.5 years. And then that went away any college basketball chance I ever had as a coach, because I just wanted to get a job. So then luckily Ben Bouchaw, who I know from Austin High School, took me on as assistant coach. I apologize to Ben every single time I see him, damn near, because I was so bad and I was so immature, and I gave them nothing but time, and that's all I ever gave. That's it. I was terrible. But then I just coached high school basketball with Tom Dasovich at Sibley, and then with Mark Klingsmore at Tartan, and Dasovich at Minnetonka as well. And then, I suppose you want to know about writing. I suppose that's probably more important, right?
Sure, let's go into that.
Okay, well, so here's the real deal. As anybody who's ever read anything I've ever written, they know I'm not exactly a grammar superstar. Our language arts teacher, who retired 2 years ago, would laugh at me because I would tell her that I was a writer. She goes, "Your grammar's terrible." And as anybody has known over the years, it's not the best, right? But I was involved with Gopher basketball, and a man named Aaron Johnson took over the Gopher Hole, as they called it at the time. They thought he was taking over the Gopher Hole, and this was 2004. They ended up leaving, so he started something called Gopher Illustrated. I knew Aaron from Austin, Minnesota, because our parents were friends, and he knew that I had a passion for Gopher basketball, so I started writing for them. And I have to thank Mike Much, because Mike Much talked Justin Hegna and Brad Raymond into letting me write for the Breakdown less than a year later. And then once Mike Much got control of Minnesota Preps, he brought me over there as well. So I have to thank them. And then I have to thank Justin Hegna for everything he allowed me to do with the Breakdown book. And then from there, it became Prep Hoops. There's a little story there. I don't know if you want to hear that whole story.
Go for it.
Like, okay, Nick Carroll, who is owner of Prep Hoops, and I were coaching together at Minnetonka. And I don't want to get into the Minnesota Preps thing. I love Mike much, and we're just going to leave it at that. But it just didn't, all of us writers weren't working for him anymore. So I came and told Nick, like, that day, he, like, left practice immediately. And then a week later, we're sitting at a table, and he has a proposal for North Star Hoops. And, like, it was, I was going to do it because, Nick's got a great business plan. I mean, and I trusted him then, I trust him now. And, like, he put together something, and he, everything he put together was great. And I was all in. And, like, to be honest with you, it was just supposed to be North Star Hoops at the time. Never did I think that the way I went about doing high school basketball writing, never in a million years did I think that would expand into 38 states. The way I cover basketball has now evolved into 38 states, but then also girls basketball, also football, also volleyball, also hockey. It all started that one practice when I told Nick Carroll, hey, because Nick had some ideas. He's like, dude, you should do this, you should do that, you should do this, you should do that. I'm like, no, I got to be loyal to Mike Much. I got to be loyal. I can't take a chance right now. Can't take a chance. We got young kids. And then when I told him that, I was now available, he left and came back a week later, and man, a month and a half later, it was a North Star site already, and 3 months later, we had a state tournament, and now here we are, 8 years later? I think it's about 8 years, 7.5 years later. It's like a national company all over the place growing, and it's pretty amazing. So that's the story of all of it. It's not because, like, I was some magnificent, writer that someone grabbed. It was more my passion for basketball.
Well, I go way back with Jake Phillips, who also was involved with Prep Hoops as well.
Yeah,
Him and my brother were the same age. I was the ball boy, always growing up for their traveling teams, being 4 years younger. So if he's not paying you enough, shoot me a message, and I'll try to see. I'll talk to his parents and reach out to his dad and see if he can get you a little bit more in the James family checking account.
That would be good. I got 4 kids. No, they pay me great. I cannot complain about that.
So you're pretty busy. Anyone that follows you knows that you're at Gopher games, you're at high school games, you're at any sort of special event throughout the high school season. So what, generally speaking, does a normal week, aside from your teaching job, right? That's your main source of income, your main job. What does a normal week look like for you covering basketball?
I do have to correct you a little bit there. Teaching's not even the main income anymore. Like, basketball on the 3 different companies is actually the main income. Teaching is just something I also have a passion for, and it has insurance. We all need insurance. When I got 4 kids and a wife, you need that insurance.
Benefits are important.
Well, I guess it probably would be the main job. The career-wise, the question swings the way. Okay, you said a full week. Man. All right, so I get up at 4 o'clock every day in the school year, and I make sure that I have 2 articles done by the time it's 5:30 a.m. I need to have 2 done by then. That's my goal. And then I am not a small person, so I need to keep under 250 pounds. So I go out for that run. And while I'm out for the run, like, the run in the morning is not just a clear thing, it's also my daily planner. So I run and I plan everything in my head, and I log it on my phone, what I need to do the rest of the day. So then then I go teach. I teach from 7:30 to 3:30, and immediately when that's done, assuming I don't have an IEP meeting, I go right back into writing a couple more articles, sometimes 2, sometimes 3. But on, like, the thing about games, so if there's a Gopher game right now, and it used to be easy because it used to be Wednesdays in the weekend. Well, that's not like that anymore. The Big Ten's got games all over the place. So it could be a Tuesday, Friday. It could be a Monday, Friday. It could be a Monday, Saturday, whatever. The games all over the place. So Gopher games have to take precedent. That's the main things that I have to cover. And then, the beauty of where things have changed with online, watching games online. I mean, it's so much easier to watch a game online because I don't have to travel to games. I love going to high school games though. So I always try to get to 2 games during the week. And then Saturday, assuming there's no games, Gopher games, Saturday is the best part for high school basketball because between the breakdown, the Southside Showcase guys, the Mini Haha guys, and a few others, there is a full day of games somewhere all the time. So Saturday is my main high school basketball focus with the additional games during the week. But the thing about, like, when it comes to, like, covering games, it's not like me driving from, Waconia to Lesser Prairie and then Lesser Prairie to Maple Grove, for example, like, and then back home, that's a full day. If I do that, I don't see my kids. You know what I mean? So like a high school basketball, and it's one game and it's one article. It's not always really efficient to go to a high school game during the week, but but it is, it's something you enjoy. So it's tough. So I've tried to limit it to 2 high school basketball games a week, and then add in Saturday plus the Gopher games. So that's what my weeks look like.
One thing that I have just been so impressed, obviously you're pumping out articles, but some of the articles that are the most impressive to me just shows the depth of knowledge that you have of high school basketball across the state. And unfortunately, they're the ones that I think you get a little kickback from people wanting a little bit more exposure here, or, we're from this kid did this, and or mom and dad probably emailing, oh, my kid's ranked 74th, but he played number 58 in a breakdown fall league game and outscored him 21-17. So just like advocate for yourself. Tell us how much time goes into these player rankings. I mean, you just pumped out. So we have 32 sections in our state. You just pumped out the best player at each position in 32 sections. I'm a social guy. You're a sped teacher. So neither of us are in the math realm. 32 times 5 is a lot, right? I think that's like what we're at about into the 150s or so.
160.
Yeah, 160.
I'm more math than I'm fresh, baby. Numbers are quick over here.
160. So you're in the last couple of weeks, you've put together, maybe even a week, you've put together 160 players from across the state at the best city. How much time goes into that, man? I've just been so impressed with that content that you've been pumping out. So you got a huge fan of me. I respect what you're doing, the time you're putting in. So just like advocate, what goes into that?
Well, the first thing people got to know, and people will never understand this because people complain, but like Minnesota is one of the very few states where your small school basketball is getting talked about a lot. Or guys that are like, I try to rank 250 guys, and people are like, why do you go 250 deep? I'll tell you why. Because more than that goes to a college every single year from Minnesota. Like, people are like, really? Yeah, because we have how many junior colleges that need to replenish, how many D3 schools that some have a JV they need to replenish, some go out of state to NAIs. Like, yeah, a huge number of kids go to school all the time. Most kids don't go that deep. Most kids don't care about a kid who averaged 17 points at Lake of the Woods, or a kid that averaged 16 points down at, I don't know, just Pipestone, okay? Like, so that's one thing that I will advocate for myself and for what we do as a company. Like, we go deeper than most places will. Okay, like, so when I do a ranking, okay, I do it a little differently. So I do player rankings in Minnesota. I take it extremely seriously. And what I do is I go through every dang team in the state of Minnesota. I research every single team. So like, I'll start in like 1A and then go up, or 4A and go down. And I research every team, try to find the stats, try to find video, and then I put it in my my Excel spreadsheet. And within that spreadsheet, I put notes on where I think they are. And I go through everybody. Like, it takes, as I have huge lists because I go through every team, but it takes me a long time. And even, you just brought up those section ones, even though I did that for all of those, in the smaller schools, they don't have that many big guys, So like finding guys, like there was 32, like I think it was 32 centers. It took me longer to find to put 4 names in than it did to do the other like 26 or 27. Because again, even after all the research, so there's just not that many big guys, and especially in small, in small school Minnesota. So I put a lot of like effort into making sure I get to everybody. I mean, you're not going to get to everybody. You're going to miss somebody. And when days get long, again, we just talked about it. I got 2 careers here and 4 kids and a wife. When days get long, sometimes I work a little quicker because, it's a long damn day. So, like, I try my best, and I try to go through, and I spend days and days and days, sometimes weeks, doing each class ranking at a time. And sometimes people get impatient on that, but dude, I try my best to do it right. You're never going to be satisfied, people, but I'm satisfied. So that's what matters.
You do a great job. I've always been happy with the publicity our guys have got. I know whenever you're putting out Section 7 through 8 or Mississippi 8 stuff from teams that we're familiar with, it's always spot on. So you have no complaints from the Princeton staff. No, I can't speak to everyone across the state, but you have a full staff of supporters 40 minutes north of you. So I want to
Hey,
get into
hold on. We gotta stay on Princeton real quick. This morning I was thinking of the young man you had, James.
Yep.
He had a nickname, and I wanted that nickname that I talked about all the time. It was the little guy from Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. What the heck was his name?
So James Fleetchick, yeah, you called him like Harry Potter and the Wizard, and like he was playing like cribbage or something. Quidditch. I don't read Harry Potter books, so I had to like Google search what that meant and stuff when you're posting that. So yeah, you're a fan of the Fleetchick family.
There was another one. I called him something like he looked like the little guy, and I remember saying, "Oh, one of your players actually messaged me," and I was like, "Oh, should I not do that?" He goes, "No, keep doing it. He loves it. It's great." And it was. Man, I was
the Mike Tyson, the Mike Tyson knockout game. I don't remember what the name was, but
that guy, I remember like that was one that I really liked. So anyway, Princeton, go Princeton.
I have a question. I added myself to the Twitter questions I'm gonna get to when we want to know about your Cowboying career and then your Browns ownership of the Wolves. We'll get to those at the end, and then I'll do a little Princeton center question at the end. So I do want to know. High school coaches listening, maybe weren't able to get out and watch their guys playing AAU this past year with obviously the COVID restrictions. Who are some of the big name stock risers, guys who you didn't think would be at the Division I level, but now are getting Division I offers? And then even guys who made the bounce from, fringe D3 kid to now looking at getting scholarships.
So I prepared for this a little bit. I appreciate the listing, the outline you gave me. Usually I don't prepare much for stuff like this just because it's more fun to be off the cuff. But I took one guy for each category. The guy who really grabbed my attention this summer, as that's a guy who should be recruited at a higher level at D1, was Andre Gray. He went from Hopkins to Minneapolis North. I was actually blown away at some of the ways that he was scoring in the two tournaments I watched. The confidence in his jumper, the rhythm of it. The way he score, if he continues to play like that, Andre Gray has an even brighter future than I thought. I've always considered him the number one shooting guard prospect in that class. A big D2 stock riser, I would say, for 7A, and not for 7A, for 2021. There's been several, but the guy who I really think came out and was Sam Privet. He's from Caledonia, 6'8", 6'9" guy. He was injured during the winter and lost some weight, but he came back at the end of the year, and he did really well with the Northern Playmakers, and he's getting some scholarships now. He just got one from Northern Michigan the other day. Definitely a kid who I was really happy to see flourish in the Wisconsin tournaments in Appleton through prep hoops. So Sam Privet, a guy everyone should watch out for. And then a guy who really came out of almost nowhere, and I did see him this winter, but he's grown 2 inches and gained more skilled, was Griffin Russian from Brainerd. This guy, like, he's 6'7". I listed him in the power forwards the other day because he might play some power forwards. This guy's so skilled, he's more of a small forward. His name's Griffin Russian, and this kid has some range. He's skilled. He moves very well. He's a true small forward, so watch out for Griffin Russian. Those are 221s, and in 2022, I'll grab one from each section. There's a lot. But like the guys who I think have a chance to be high majors someday, Alonzo Dodd from South St. Paul. Kid is a complete grinder, and I think he's going to grind his way. Cal called him. He's got a lot of the mid-major stuff. At minimal, I think this is a mid-major 4-year guy. Like a mid-major, like 4-year. What I mean by 4-year guy is a guy who's going to give them good minutes for 4 years. So Missouri Valley, Mountain West, that type of thing at the minimum. Maybe even high major. I'm a huge fan of Alonzo Dodd. And sticking with high major, Johnny Lee at Byron. Tell you a little story about Johnny Lee. No idea who he was when I saw them play early January. The day that Minnehaha played Sierra Canyon, I had this decision. Do I go to the Target Center or do I go to our breakdown event? Well, you got to take into consideration which one's happening. Yeah, the Target Center. And there's 6 games to watch down in the breakdown. And then there's 6 teams I might not see, or like 6 to 8 teams I might not see again. So, and I get paid if I go down to Rochester. So I went down there and then watched the excuse me. I went down and I watched the Sierra Canyon game on ESPN, which made it easy. When I was down there, Johnny played. He had like 10 points, 8 boards, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, who's this guy? And then I learned about him. from Coach Finney, who is also from Austin. Yes, there's a lot of us. There's a lot of Austin basketball people. But anyway, I learned about Ajani and started tracking him more and more. And again, he played up on a 17-and-under team and was fantastic all summer. 6'9", agile, with a motor. Ajani Lee's got a bright future ahead of him, assuming he just keeps working as hard as he has. Couple more names. You know, I'm pulling up my little list here. Guys who are on like the next level coming up. I would say Thomas DL from St. Cloud Apollo. This young man has a great feel in the low post. Sam Wrench from Hutchinson. I really think Sam Wrench does some things that remind me of Cody Schilling. I'm not saying he is Cody Schilling. As those who've been paying attention to me for many years, Cody Schilling is one of my favorite players to watch and cover of all time. But Sam does a lot like similar to him. And then another guy Carter Bjerke from Wayzata. I watched Carter play in the past. Thought he was fine. Checked with some people about learn more about him, and then watching him play. Like I have something I'm calling the 40% club right now. Guys who I bet are going to hit 40% from the arc consistently. Carter's that type of guy, and he can score at the bucket. So Carter, that's a bunch of guys like 6, 7 of the 50 that I could probably talk about that really had nice summers that took a big jump.
Here's what I love that you just said. You just hit Minneapolis North, Caledonia, Brainerd, South St. Paul, Byron, St. Cloud Apollo, Hutchinson, and Wayzata. I mean, that's just crazy that you're just pumping names out that quick. I mean, I know you prep, but off the top of your head, from literally every single corner of this state. I know that maybe wasn't any single A representation, but I mean, that's just like, that's just phenomenal that you can just rip that off. And it's how much of how valuable you are to high school basketball is so important. I want to build off of that because you must be, you got to be plugged in. And so how involved are you with, maybe not even the specific schools, but like the D1, D2, D3 kids? How many are reaching out to you get a feel? I mean, obviously they're going to subscribe and they're going to see the player rankings list. They know our 22 group in the state is phenomenal, right? There's a ton of Division I kids there. But how much are people reaching out to you as like the first wave before they dive into the recruiting process on a kid?
You mean college coaches, right?
College coaches, correct. Yep.
Yeah. Basically my drives, I've talked about the drives. Those drives are when I talk to college coaches. So it's like a lot of them reach out, definitely. A lot of them reach out. And I don't want to sound like a prick, but at the same time, there's only so much time in a day. So usually it comes down to I'll talk to the people that I know, that I have a relationship with. I'll talk to people that I know that are like, hey, can you talk to this guy and help him out? And I'll do that. Right now, I would say mostly I'll talk to Division I coaches and some D2 coaches that I know. When you spend as many weeks in the gym as myself in the summer, as myself does, as Kevin Alstein does, TCU Hoops are, Max from Fresh Coast Hoops, and so, when you spend as much time in the gym as we do, over the years you start to develop a relationship with the other guys that are in the gym all the time, and those other guys are the guys that run the events, the AU coaches, and the college coaches. And you're going to naturally form a relationship with them. You go to the socials at night with them when the games are done. And because of that, you have a relationship with all these D2 guys. Well, some of those D2 guys are now D1 guys. So those are the people, like that's the group of people I communicate regularly with, I would say.
It's good stuff. One of these questions that came in from Twitter, and this is a great one that I didn't think of, to helping coaches out or maybe even helping kids out in the recruitment process, what are some of the qualities at each position that, I know it's probably going to be shooting, but I don't want to step on your toes, but what are some of the qualities that coaches are looking for when they're, again, you're mentioning more the high D2, D1 coaches, so let's stick there. What are these coaches looking for that really separate one kid from another?
Well, okay, so a lot of people don't want to be called, I'm not a 5, I'm a 4, I'm not a power center, I'm a power forward, I'm not a this, I'm not a that. Well, here's the deal. The college coaches are in the gym. They're looking. There's things that are obvious. Like, okay, is he big enough? Okay, check. I see that. Is he athletic enough? Check. I see that. Those things are vitally important. They're just, they want size. They get the good players with the best size, good players with the best agility. That's always going to be that way because those are things that in the college game where space is Space is vitally important. You need size to take up that space. You need quickness to get to cover space or to get into space while it's open. Those are the two most vital things. But then back to the position thing, it's not your position is not what you play on offense. Your position is what you guard. If you're a center and if they call you a center, oh yeah, I can dribble and I can shoot out here. Great, but you can't guard a small forward. You don't have that agility. You can't guard that power forward because you can't guard out there. So you're a center because you're guarding other centers. Those are things that college coaches are looking at like constantly. Can they guard this? Can they guard that? And then, off of that, I think I saw the question and it was position by position. Looking at it each position, point guard, what do you want? Well, first of all, if you take a guy who I think is a D2 point guard, year after year after year, the more agile of the two is always selected. I get frustrated with that sometimes. Excuse me. I need a drink. All right. I'm talking so much, my throat is.
No, you're good. This is good stuff. We're getting inside the mind of the great Ryan James, who is the biggest. Oh, there it is, the Browns water bottle, Hydro Flask. We'll get to that. I know Jared wants to know about your Browns Timberwolves connection, but yeah. Anyways.
Anyway, what I was saying was, you get frustrated because you're like, this guy's a good player, but then you have to talk to the college coaches and realize, yes, Ryan, but our space, we don't. When we have that guard, there's only so much space, and we need the quicker guy to cover that space. We need the quicker guy. Before I talked to you, was talking about a player in South Dakota named Tyler Feldkamp. Why is he better than the other guy I was comparing? Because Tyler has 4.5 speed, and he can get to the lane. He can get to the lane before the sizable help defender gets there. He can get to the lane before, he can turn that corner before those spaces covered. Those are the vital things that our college coaches are looking for. Wings. If you're a wing, yes, they're going to look for shooting. Shooting is absolutely at a premium right now. But you also have to have the right combination when you talk about your wings. You have to have one that can shoot, but you also have to have, if you have a guy that can shoot that can't guard, the other guy better be able to guard, or you're not going to be able to guard anybody the other way. So they're looking for fits. They're looking for spots. They're looking to find fits for those spots. So
how do us as high school coaches, because you mentioned, you're going to write an article. You're a kid who's a MIAC, UMAC, maybe NSIC, NAIA type kid. They might get one or two little blurbs written about them from Prep Hoops from you throughout the course of the year, which you mentioned is probably more than they would be getting in other states. So how, as high school coaches, would you recommend is the best way for us to promote our kids?
Oh, there's 2 college coaches, right?
So just as high school coaches, how would be the best way that we could promote our kids just in general?
Okay. Well, my first thought is what you're promoting, you're probably trying to promote them for their future. The one thing that kids do not think of and don't realize, and a lot of coaches, like high school and AU coaches, don't tell them, is that if you want to play for Bemidji State has a questionnaire on their website, and it says, "Do you want to be a future? What are they? BSU
Beavers."
Hey, the Beavers. So if you want to be a future Beaver. Fill out the questionnaire so then they see it and know. You want to go to Hamlin? Fill out the questionnaire they have. So now you're on their radar and they're going to look. You'd be shocked at how many schools would be like, "Hey, Ryan, have you ever heard of Bob Jones? Bob Jones filled out our questionnaire here. And apparently his mom went to school here. So shoot, I want to know more about him." Fill out those questionnaires if you were interested in a school. That's huge. The second thing is video. It's not obnoxious to stick a young man's video on your high school Twitter. Oh, by the way, have a high school basketball Twitter for your team or yourself as a coach. It's not that hard, and it's not going overboard to talk about Steve Johnson had 16 points and 7 rebounds. It's okay to say that on your Twitter. It's simple stuff. It helps get a little bit of exposure out there, and put the players' video on there if they make a huddle video. I look at huddle videos all the time. It's hard to be able to watch 9 YouTube games in a weekend, but I can look at the videos. I'm looking at tons of it. After we're done here, I'll go right back to the article I was writing in South Dakota, looking at South Dakota point guards, and I'm going to go right back into those articles, in those lengthy videos, and I'm going to look at them. Get those videos prepared. And it's okay as a high school coach to reach out to myself. I love it. I love it when coaches say, "Hey, Ryan, Hayden had 32 points tonight. I just think you should know. I love that. It's awesome to like hear. Okay, so if a young man has 32 points, send me a message, and I will certainly tweet that out. I love knowing about that, and other people love knowing about it too. And I got a fair amount of Twitter followers in the basketball world. Therefore, if I put it out there, the college coaches see it because most college coaches that recruit this area are following what I say on my Twitter, and it's okay to do that. Now, overboard is there is something going overboard, attaching everyone's name to like all these Twitter attachments on there. Like, okay, if you do that every single day, it gets annoying. If you attach, let's say Hayden Johnson, whoever Hayden Johnson is. Sorry, Hayden Johnson, whoever you are. If Hayden Johnson had a dunk and it's attached to the Gophers in Michigan and North Carolina and then Hamlin, like they're not going to pay attention to that. Like, you got to be smart about what you're doing and don't do it like every day. But it's social media. You have to be smart and you have to be simple but put effort into it too, because some people don't put effort into it.
Let's talk about season previews here. I don't want to stomp on what gets you paid. I know you'll put in more lengthy stuff on the breakdown book. I know you'll put more stuff in behind the paywall on Prep Hoops. I get that. Let's get a little preview in here, though, of season stuff. So share as much as you're willing to share. If you don't want to go deep, I get it. I know you got stuff. This is a second career for you, or a first career, however you want to slice it. But let's start with each class. Who are the top 3 to 5 teams that you're seeing right now in each class?
All right, well, let's start at single A. Okay. Single A basketball is wide open. There is no favorite. Single A can be it can be one of the tough things. It's so much about experience. So like, if you got experience coming back and you were a good team, you're a contender. My number one of the main teams coming in for me is Nevis. Nevis had a good season last year. Brings back just about everything. Has a dynamite backcourt. Hayfield.
Hey, hold up. I got to plug Nevis for a second quick. Chloe, to your family used to always go up to the Park Rapids, Nevis area. Girl, that was always our vacation spot. About an hour away from Brainerd, hour and a half from Brainerd, so it was an easy trip. We can make it back for our baseball games that night and go right back to the campsite or the cabin place. One of the best coffee shops I've ever been to in Nevis. It's got like a candy store in it too. It's phenomenal. Anyways, Hayfield. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but Nevis has a great coffee shop, candy factory. It's a combo store.
I went to a Nevis game last year. Was it last year? No, 2 years ago. 2 years ago. And like Nevis. So I was at a game in Nevis, and Nevis in the last 5 years was the hardest place for me to convince somebody that I was a media member. I showed them. She's like, "Who's that? Who's that? What's that? Huh?" And I was like, "Well, here's my badge and here's my phone." I showed her my phone and like, "Here's who I am. This is what I work for." And oh my goodness, eventually I just ended up giving the lady some money. I'm like, "Just let me in. I don't have time. I'm already late." So Nevis was the place I had the hardest time of convincing anybody that I actually am covering a game. But anyway, Hayfield has been good, and I think they can continue to be a top 10 team. Ethan, their guard, is a standout. He's probably gonna be in consideration for preseason Class A first teamer. Northwoods, don't forget about Northwoods. Northwoods has a lot coming back. Keep an eye out on Nicolette. And there's a long list here. I'm not going to get everybody into all of it because we have a breakdown preview coming in. But matter of fact, the breakdown preview, little plug. I already got all the section pages done for that, so we're moving pretty good on that. And also to everybody out there, the guy who produces the book, Tim Colomane, Tim's wife just passed away, and so shout out to Tim. He's handling it well. He's a champ. Okay, so moving on. 2A basketball. Okay, 2A is going to be interesting, and there was some Twitter discussion on this. Some of the kids are like, "Who's going to beat Minneapolis North? How can anybody beat Minneapolis North?" Well, Waseca has handled Minneapolis North pretty well the last 2 years, and they got everything back, and I mean everything. They didn't lose anybody, and Waseca is obviously going to get better. So with Waseca beating Minneapolis North the last 2 years, I'm looking forward to seeing them play again this year. But Waseca gets the nod as the preseason number one because, let's be real here, they beat Minneapolis North the last 2 years and they lose nothing. So it makes total sense that they would be number one. But Minneapolis North is right on their heels, probably come in as the second-ranked team in state because not only are they also bringing back a lot of talent and also very good, they also added the best shooting guard senior prospect in the state. So look out for Minneapolis North right on Waseca's heels or to win the state championship. And Caledonia does not lose much. They're not going far away, but they did lose Newell King. Out of Waseca, Minneapolis North, Caledonia lost the best player of the group, but then again, they bring back 4 starters. So, and 3 of them have scholarship offers from different schools. So Caledonia's right there. Perham never lost a game last year. They bring a lot back. So don't forget them. So they'll probably come in number 4. And then, from there, 5, will it be Stewartville with Will Cheddar and Nolan, or will it be Melrose? I like Melrose too. So that's your top group for 2A.
Dude, hold on, Melrose, and those guys came out flying on this podcast. Ryan came on this podcast that had the most single-day downloads of any episode I've had.
Oh.
The Dutchman, they had their coach was on. They were downloading. I think I had like 150. I mean, it's not a lot, right? But usually it's like every episode probably gets, if I get like 60 to 75 the first day, like I feel like that's a good like launch or a good day first day episode. They were well over 100 from that episode. So like, man, the Dutchman, those people get out and support their program. Anyways, 3A. Yeah.
They sure do. Melrose people really love their program. They talk about them on Twitter a lot too. 3A Minnehaha Academy is going to come in most likely number 1. Well, they will be. They'll come in number 1. Totino Grace kind of closing that gap. It's when you look at the depth between Minnehaha Academy and Totino Grace, the talent that both those rosters have, like you put those 2 together, that's close to like half the D1 players in for the next 3 classes. It's crazy, but there's so much talent. I don't know if I need to run through all the names here, but Minnehaha Academy and Totino Grace are stacked. They're 2 of the best teams in the state. They'll come in 1 and 2. De La Salle will be right behind them. De La Salle's always going to be good. They have talent. They were well coached. They play hard. And then don't forget Richfield and Hibbing. Watch out for those Hibbing. Watch out for Hibbing.
Jeremy good.
And yes. And Richfield brings back their starting 5 as well off a 23-5 team. I'd throw Marshall in there, and don't forget about Mankato East. They lost some seniors, but they got some pretty good talent. BJ Omot's ready to explode. So 3A, and then 4A. Oh, man. Okay, so 4A basketball, 4A basketball is always going to have talent. It's science. It's math. They have huge schools with lots of kids, so they're always going to have talent. But, some of the top names in the state aren't in – a lot of the top names in the state aren't in 4A right now. There's a lot in 3A and 2A. So everything is really, really wide open in 4A. If I was to – somebody told me right now, who do you think will win the state championship? I would go Wayzata, just because they have so much talent back. They have size. They have a great backcourt. But then again, Wayzata was not very good last year. So you can't just grab a 10-win team or 11-win team or whatever they were and throw them at number 1. They got to earn it. So the team that I would say that has the most back talent-wise and who earned it last year would probably be Lakeville South. So there you go, Joey. There's your pressure. And then, Lakeville South, Wayzata, Hopkins is going to have a nice starting 5. Chaska doesn't lose as much as you think. And look out for those Greyhounds in Duluth East. Look out for those Greyhounds on Duluth East. Maple Grove, Champlain Park. Those are – but, I mean, if I was to, say these are the state contenders, because it's so wide open, you could go 12, 13 deep. I mean, who's going to bet against Trey Holloman and Cretin-Durham Hall? Although Cretin lost 4 starters. So, 4A.
You just mentioned a lot of great grilling coaches in your 4A there with Joe and Rhett. Those guys have been pumping up a lot of grilling content here in the last couple months. So I mean, if nothing else, I mean, even if their teams don't make it, they could probably have a cookout, over on First Avenue for anyone going down to the state tournament in March.
Joe, I'm anxious to try some of Joey's cooking. I keep seeing all these pictures of it. I don't know whether to be scared or if I should be running over to his house real quick.
All right, Mr. Basketball / McDonald Award preview. Who are your couple guys?
Oh, well, I mean, Chet's the favorite. Chet Holmgren.
So how does Chet not win it? Well, what would that have to look like?
Okay, well, I'll paint you a scenario. Okay, I'll paint you a little scenario. Let's go. Will Cheddar is gonna if Chet somehow didn't win the award, which to me would be an absolute shock.
Okay.
I mean, he's got what, 2 or 3 state championships already. He's the number one player in the nation.
Yeah.
I don't. The number one player in the nation with 3 state championships and favored to win another one. That'd be a shock. Okay, but let's paint this scenario. Will Cheddar has monster numbers, and Will is really good. Let's say Will goes for 39-16 this year and has huge performances against the best teams they play. And people are going to be like, Stewartville, meh. Well, Stewartville plays a nice schedule. They get out and play some good teams, and there's good teams in that schedule. But people go meh. They forget that, like, Lake City had a kid going to Northern Iowa, and Waseca's got multiple scholarship kids, and Caledonia has got multiple high major kids, and Lake City has guys going to, like, St. Charles has, like, there's talent all over southern Minnesota. But anyway, back to the point. Let's say Will gets 38-16 on average, has a bunch of big moments, gets his team past Caledonia and gets in the state tournament. Okay, let's say that happens, and somehow Chet Holmgren, like, that team is super balanced. Let's say that Chet doesn't get his team to state somehow. Okay, let's just say that happens. Maybe the discussion comes up. But to me, like, Chet Holmgren, the only guy in my entire high school basketball watching career, in which dates back to 1990, I can't remember if it's 91 or 92, because the first full court press is what Minnesota Basketball News used to be called. It was called full court press. First one I ever picked up, Joel McDonald was on the cover of it. And, like, he was, like, the all-time leading scorer. And I think they won a state championship maybe at that point. And I remember looking at it, and, like, that's when I looked into it, and, like, I remember trying to watch a state championship game on TV. That's when I started paying attention. That's 30 years, right? The only guy in Chet Holmgren's hemisphere for shot blocking is Joe Prisbilla. That's it. Nobody else compares. So you got that. You got the fact that he's got some of the best skill in America, and he's 7'1". But what separates Chet from all other 7-footers? Dude steps on the floor and plays with an attitude. Like, most people are begging 7-footers to come on into the gym just to play. Not every 7-footer wants to play basketball, just like not every 6-footer wants to play basketball. But Chet loves to compete. And that is why, and now that he's going to get way more touches. I mean, this year, they had so much talent. Chet would take 8 shots in games, 7 shots in games. Like, that's not going to happen anymore. Chet's going to be a focal point of, like, the main focal point. And Chet's going to have a monster season. So I see him as number one. Will is the one guy that I think can, give it a run. Are there other names? Yes. And the big thing could be the Final Five. Because a lot of these years recently, the Final Five has almost been the bigger thing to look at. So I'll just run through some names. Minneapolis North has a pair in Townley and Gray, Josh Strait at Eden Valley Watkins, Reed Patterson, Lakeville South, Francis at Champa Park, the Waseca kids, Ryan Dufault, Andrew Morgan. There's Kate Haskins at De La Salle, and I'd throw a Trey Longstreet in Delano. That's probably the guys competing for the Final Five. But it's Chet's award is a big favorite, with Will Cheddar being the one guy that could maybe somehow possibly yank it away from him, but I'd be very surprised.
So without having a state tournament, without people, I don't know what your AAU watching, if you're more online, if you're getting in the gym or not. So it's been a weird, obviously, last 6 months. But with that said, what are some teams that obviously you haven't been able to see teams that break down tournaments or team camps at the U of M or anything like that you would see over the course of a normal season? I know the breakdown state tournament you kind of get to see some teams kind of fall into the categories. All right, who beat who and that sort of thing. Who are some sleeper teams that you didn't mention? It doesn't have to be one for each class, but that maybe are up and coming that watch out for. Maybe fringe top 10 teams that could all of a sudden be a number one seed in a section and maybe win a game at the state tournament that no one's really talking about.
Okay, I'll say Woodbury. Woodbury brings a lot. Bradley Semperman leads them. Lakeville North. John Oxton is one of the elite coaches in the state. They have a good mix of seniors and young talent coming back. I would say those are the teams to watch out for. Holy Angels, 3A. Just got a good transfer. Camden Holter came over from Minneapolis Southwest, going with Boyd and their point guard Emma Johnson. Keep an eye on Holy Angels. And Alexandria. Alexandria was really good last year, and I don't think they lost too much. Oh, and those Princeton Tigers. Keep an eye on those Princeton Tigers. I see in the book right here, they're ranked in the preseason top 15, so maybe we should keep an eye on the Princeton Tigers as well.
See, you know what? And I'll jump to that because I'm gonna hit the Twitter questions. I had a Section 7-3A Rube question. Since I'm wearing the gear today specifically just for remember where I came from, remember where I'm at, and we've used your section rankings as motivation, and I respect everything. I actually like when you ding our guys because then I can be, hey, Ryan James doesn't think you're shit, right? Look at this right here. Here it is. Like he's got us 4th in the section last year, right? We win it again. So hey, heck yeah. So you can knock us out of that ranking. I don't mind. I'll put it up on the bulletin board whenever our season starts. So no, I do I do use that as motivation. So if you want to ding us, by all means.
They're out. Let's see. Jordan, East Grand Forks, Albany, one of you just took their spot. There you go. All right.
So let's get to some of these Twitter questions. A little bit more loose from people. Some of your maybe people you've known a little longer. And Joe. So Joe from Lakeville South come in. What is your thought process if you were introduced to a ranch at a young age, and how would you be as a cowboy?
Okay. If I was introduced to a ranch at a young age, no one would know who I am. And I would be the baddest ass cowboy you've ever seen. And there's no question. If you watch Yellowstone, and if you don't, you're missing out. I would be ripped. The only person in the Minnesota basketball community who could stop me from being ripped would be Larnell James. Me and Larnell would run that bunkhouse with an iron fist, and we would enjoy the smack out of living in Montana and running Dasovich's ranch. Now, Joey Jaguar could come out there too, but now that he's cooking all the time, he's going to have to be Gator cooking, the Gator. I don't know if you watch Yankton, Gator's the chef. Joey's going to be our chef. But if I was a cowboy, I would be the baddest ass cowboy you've ever seen, and I would never come off the ranch, and I'd be in Montana, and me and Larnell James would come over. We'd be the new James gang. Larnell James, Ryan James. We'd take over for Jesse and Frank running our ranch. That's how that would be.
I've never watched Yellowstone. We pretty much our house is our only thing we're watching right now is Big Brother 3 nights a week. That's kind of our guilty pleasure in the Cloutier house. So I've heard Yellowstone's good. I haven't gotten into it. I don't know. I'm kind of a snob when it comes to, I like the HBO, the Showtime shows. So I don't know. I'll get into it someday.
Do yourself a favor. It's the best show there is right now.
All right, Jared Martin wants to know your thoughts on Cleveland Browns owner, rumored to be in the mix for the Timberwolves purchase.
Dude, I love the Cleveland Browns. Since I was a kid, I loved the color orange when I was 5, so my dad got me a bunch of Cleveland Browns cards and gave them to me, and I've always been a fan. But, the Browns have been ran into the ground. They're like a joke. I don't keep up with the owners that well, so maybe they switched some things lately. But I love the Cleveland Browns, but if it's want it running the Timberwolves, facts.
Is Ryan James and Dean Kessler making a bid? Justin Hagman making a bid for the Timberwolves?
Justin probably is. Me and Dean have too many kids.
And then last one. This is my Princeton-centric question. Who could beat Hibbing in 7-3A? I think they're big time favorites. Who could beat Hibbing in 7-3A?
That's a thinker. Who could beat Hibbing in 7-3A? If Princeton had better coaching, I'd tell them. So I'm gonna go with Grand Rapids or Sago Lakes or Cloquet with a slight chance at Princeton. And Princeton Tigers are really good. They're well coached. They do good things.
We'll be all right. We'll be all right. We got some good players, but Hibbing's going to be. Joel's got a great group this year, and they're going to be damn good. I've said on Twitter, and now I don't know, Matthew McAllister might be knocking on my door, and Omar might be knocking on my door. I've said they're the best public school in Class 3A, I said it from the Princeton basketball page, I think, just so I could deflect it to my direct messages that would buzz on my phone. But yeah. I think they might be the best public school in Class 3A. They're super talented, so Joel's got a great group up there this year.
I would agree. Them or Richfield. And, Aiden McDonald, I've said this a million times. It might as well be, a tagline. I should, go get it trademarked. But, Aiden McDonald is one of the best 5 passers I've seen in the last 10 years. He's that – when it comes to passing, he's that elite.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. And they were getting after it in their in the McDonald laundry room over quarantine with their ball handling workouts too. He's a good player, man. We're a press team, we're an up tempo team, and we have a hard time pressing them. Just the way he's able to split our press. So he's good.
In their laundry room.
Yeah, they had Aiden was like every day on Twitter. He was getting these ball handling workouts in. And I was texting Rhett. I was like, Rhett, why didn't you do this when you were in high school? Like, this is why Aiden's better than you.
Aren't modern day laundry rooms like where's yours? Mine is like right next to our kitchen, and the previous house it was right next to our bedroom. I don't think there would be enough. They must have a huge house, or theirs is still in the basement, like the old school days.
That might have been it. Ryan, I appreciate you coming on. Ideally, I'd like to connect with. I want to try to grab one of all of you from the Prep Hoops guys and deep dive a section once we get closer to the season. If you're down with that.
Sounds good to me.
Sorry, a class deep dive a state or a class. I'm sorry. Yeah. Perfect.
Whatever works.
I appreciate it. Go Browns.
Yeah, go Browns. Heck yeah. Go Vikings too. I like them. And come on, Gophers. Let's have a season. I like Miami Hurricanes too. I got lots of teams.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yep, later. You too.